Good morning. Good morning and welcome to Sunday worship at First Parish in Concord. My name is Gib Metcalf. My pronouns are he, him, and I am honored to serve as the chair of the governing board. If it feels a bit nippy in here, it's because it's summertime and the heat's off. But if you're cold, just, huddle together. You can move up and warm each other up. First Parish is a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and love lies at the center of our faith. Connected by our shared values, we gather to live out our mission together, to deepen spiritually, to build community, and to make a positive difference in the world. Welcome to all joining us both in our sanctuary and on Zoom, whichever camera is on me. If you need assistance during the service, please direct questions to your Zoom chat host or see one of our ushers in the rear of the sanctuary. Assisted listening devices are available as well as soul work crafts and coloring pages for all ages. During the worship, the parlor downstairs serves as a wiggle room where young ones can play, accompanied by their caregivers while the service live streams on a large screen. Zoom participants are invited to stay online after the service for a time of conversation and fellowship, and all present in the meeting house are welcome to enjoy coffee hour in the parish hall downstairs. And as your governing board rep, I will be available during coffee hour for conversation and questions. For those who would like an intimate space to reflect on today's worship themes, you are invited to the worship sharing circle, which begins at 11:15 in the Brooks room down that way out of our sanctuary. This morning, I'm delighted to welcome our guest preacher, the Reverend Carol Barshaw, they, who joins us from the North Shore UU Church in Danvers, where they serve as lead minister. The Reverend Barshaw became a Unitarian Universalist in 2006 after being raised non-religious. Buddhist meditation in the Insight tradition has been an important aspect of her spirituality. Welcome once again. To gather and worship is a sacred act, and your presence among us is a blessing, and we are glad and grateful that you are here.
Good morning. I'll call us to worship today, and I invite you to say together a chalice lighting reading while Gib lights our chalice. The words are printed on screen or in your order of service. These are words by Eric Walker Wickstrom. May we listen so that we can hear. Why don't you say it with me? I'm so sorry. Why don't we start with the first slide? So we'll say it together. Here, today, in this place, and with these people, may we listen so that we can hear. May we hear so that we can feel. May we feel so that we can know. And may we know so that we can change ourselves and this world. May this chalice that we light our way. Next, let's sing together our opening hymn. It's number 346, Come Sing a Song With Me. Words on screen or in your gray hymn book. Well, hopefully that warmed those of us here in person up a little bit. Our first reading today comes from Sherry Mitchell. Sherry Mitchell is a member of the Penobscot Nation. She's an attorney and a founder of the Land Peace Foundation, an organization dedicated to the preservation of Indigenous rights and way of life. In her book, Sacred Instructions, she writes that listening is one of the core values of Indigenous culture. She reflects on how she learned this cultural value as a young person in today's reading. When you are taught to listen, there are two things that happen. You learn from what is being said, and you learn to be quiet and still. One of the many blessings of my life was being taught to sit and listen to my elders. Not only did I gain a great deal of knowledge from the stories they shared, but I also learned something about the value of observing the cadence of their speech. In modern-day speech patterns, there is a tendency to jump in whenever there is a pause. Being instructed to sit and listen to my elders and only speak when they asked me a question seemed a bit harsh when I was a child. However, this training provided me with the opportunity to see what happens when the pause in conversation is allowed to sit there uninterrupted. I observed that long pause ratios in their communication didn't result from a lack of things to say. On the contrary, it was representative of the thoughtfulness that they applied to considering each word spoken. Thus ends the reading.
Each Sunday, we set aside time in our worship to bear witness to the most meaningful passages in our life and to share our joy and sorrow, grief and hope. In this way, we deepen the source of compassion in our hearts for ourselves, for one another, and for those in the wider world. In our congregation this week, Cal Kelleher has shared that he and Kate both have COVID and are recovering at home. They welcome your healing thoughts and prayers, as well as emails, but please, no cards. Into this space made meaningful by our gathered presence, I invite you now to share the names and sacred concerns that you are holding today, either by typing them into the chat or speaking them aloud into this space. We acknowledge and hold in our hearts all the intentions and prayers spoken and unspoken among us. And on this Memorial Day weekend, we especially hold in love and memory those who have died in military service. Some were our children, our siblings, our friends, our parents, grandparents, ancestors, and myriad others not known to us, but connected to us by their sacrifice. Let us take a moment of silence to remember them and together to hold all in care.
Into this silence, I will offer a guided meditation. If you'd like to practice with me, it's by invitation. So please feel free to keep your eyes closed if they're closed or your gaze softened. We're going to practice with mindfulness using an anchor meditation. So an anchor meditation invites us to locate a place in the body where we might focus our attention. A lot of times, meditation will invite us to a focus on the breath, and for some that can be very effective, but for others, particularly if we might struggle with breathing, it can be helpful to have some other options for a guided meditation or a time of silence. So I invite you now to locate a place in the body where you might like to focus your attention today. So let us move to relax the body just a little bit more than it already is. So first you might want to invite a little bit of rest and relaxation into the soles of your feet and the place where your body meets the chair, the pew, the couch, the car seat. I know many of us are listening on Zoom today. Just see if you can invite even 10% more rest into the parts of you being held by the chair and the ground. Inviting the chair and the earth to do the work of holding so that you get to be held. As your seat and your feet are resting back and being held, I want to see if you can invite some length into your upper body. Whether your back and your head are resting or if you're holding them upright, see if you can imagine the crown of your head reaching up towards the sky, just adding a little bit of length to your body. Our length, part of how we hold our dignity in an embodied way. See if you can notice the fullness of your body from side to side. See if your shoulders want to loosen back a little bit, and see if you can notice the side edges of your body from the left to the right. See if you can be in the fullness of that space. Letting the rib cage expand. Letting the space from your left ear to your right ear be filled with spaciousness. And from this place, we invite in the anchor. An anchor, a few suggestions for an anchor. You might want to invite the palm of your hand to be your anchor as you rest it on your knee, on your belly, on your chest. You might invite the part of your nose, right where the air enters your nose, your nostrils, to be your anchor for today. Some people like the sole of their feet. Just as you bring into awareness that anchor, begin to breathe in a natural way, not putting any special emphasis on the breath, but more so holding in awareness what's going on with that anchor as you breathe in and breathe out. If it's your hand, the palm of your hand, are you noticing some tension? An ache or a pain. Maybe you don't feel very much at all. Whether it's the hand or the base of the nostrils, maybe you notice a sensation of heat or cold. As thoughts or other sensations speak to us in our mind's eye, in our heart, just inviting back that awareness of the anchor. There's always the opportunity to return to the anchor. If it's feeling a little lonely in this meditation, just remember that you are in a room full of people doing the same thing. Across time and space, people on Zoom also just coming back to the anchor. Just focusing in on a little bit of peace in the body. Just inviting in a return to presence when so many people, places, things seek to call our attention elsewhere. In the next few breaths, I invite you to begin to release that anchor from your awareness. As we move into a time of a focus on the breath in meditation. So you might wish to deepen your breath a little bit, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Seeing if your exhale can be a little bit longer than your inhale. With thanks and appreciation for the anchor, letting that go, and now just paying attention as we breathe in and breathe out. Maybe you notice a little change in your body, a little more relaxation, a little more ease with the breath. Maybe it's just the same. Maybe this whole practice made you a little nervous and it's a little shallow. Whatever you notice, just offer it acceptance and presence. As you move into a time of silence, followed by a time of song.
Here at First Parish, we say we gather together to deepen spiritually, to build community, and to make a positive difference in the world. This congregation can make a difference in our community and the wider world because those who came before us were committed to this faith and to this congregation. Your commitment and your generosity sustain us now. Each month we share this generosity with an organization nominated by a member of our congregation. And for the month of May, we have been supporting Dee Dee's Cry. The mission of Dee Dee's Cry, a fledgling organization based in Roxbury, is to provide resources on suicide prevention, support family members in the aftermath of a suicide, and to offer mental health education. Dee Dee's Cry seeks to create a space where conversations begin to lift the stigma on suicide and mental health within the BIPOC communities. In collaboration with other organizations and agencies, they create events, facilitate groups, and provide support to suicide loss survivors. We invite you to give generously this morning as we share today's collection with Dee Dee's Cry. For all that we do within and beyond these walls, we are grateful for your gifts this morning. Oren J. Sofer is an American Buddhist meditation teacher who incorporates aspects of Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication work into his work with adults and children in various settings, including healthcare, education, and the business world. This story comes from his book, Say What You Mean, A Mindful Approach to Nonviolent Communication. He says, "My student Susan teaches high school art and told me the following story. Avery, a freshman who is usually cheerful and bubbly, began showing up early to class. Susan struck up a conversation and realized how much Avery was struggling. They agreed to meet later that day to talk when Susan had more time. I don't want to go to school anymore, Avery said. She was thinking about dropping out. Susan noticed the impulse to go into problem-solving mode, an old habit of hers. Having just finished our week's lesson on empathy, she paused and decided to try listening instead. Tell me more. What's going on? Avery began to open up. She was being bullied. She felt sad and alone and depressed. Every time Susan noticed the urge to fix or solve, she attended to feeling the weight of her body and her feet on the floor and resisted the temptation to offer solutions. Susan focused her attention on what Avery was feeling and reflected on what she was hearing. Avery began to cry, oscillating between speaking, sobbing, and awkwardly making eye contact as if to check on whether this was all okay. There were a lot of tears, tissues, and long moments in which Susan merely held Avery's gaze. Avery spoke more of her feelings of sadness and loneliness and not feeling valued. I felt like this since first grade, Avery mentioned. Was that the first time you felt so sad and alone? Susan inquired. No. It started when she was 3, when her dad left. They looked at each other, realizing they'd hit the root of her pain. Eventually, they explored what Avery might need at school. They came up with some strategies to address the bullying. Avery decided to stay in school and to make a public art piece for the classroom about depression. This is the power of empathy. We can receive each word expressed, each emotion revealed with a listening heart. When we come from curiosity and care instead of our default habitual communication strategies, healing and transformation are possible.
Meditation, as I guided earlier, has been part of my life since my early 20s. My earliest teachers were trained in a program that teaches meditation to help people with chronic illness, including heart disease, cancer, and back pain. This program is called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. Some of you might know it, might practice it. At the time, I was coping with a chronic physical injury. Meditation through this program helped me experience pain relief, and I was grateful. Over the years, I developed a meditation practice that includes Buddhist practice and the Insight tradition. And meditation has been a great complement to another spiritual practice that came to me also in my 20s. Beth just shared a piece by Oren J. Sofer from his recent book, Say What You Mean. Oren J. Sofer is a teacher of both meditation and nonviolent communication. I first learned about nonviolent communication from my Unitarian Universalist church in Philadelphia. I had just started attending and was still kind of learning what UUism was all about. And that responsive song that we sang together, that response to the meditation, that song really drew me in. Breathe in love, breathe out peace. I thought, if that's what these folks are all about, I want to be a part of this. I want to create more peace in the world. At the time, in those early 2000s, we were, as a culture, having to start to grapple with the intensifying of violence from mass gun violence. It was 2007, and there had been a shooting at Virginia Tech University, still one of the most deadly mass shootings that we've experienced in a school setting. I won't go into the details of it, but it really rocked my world. And a question that echoed in my mind was, what can I do to counter violence? Everything in me says, well, I just want to stop it. But I didn't have control over that, right? I couldn't go out and stop everyone who's committing violence. So this thing called nonviolent communication presented itself. There was a free class the next day after that shooting. I attended it, and I was hooked. Nonviolent communication is a process that combines active listening techniques, like open, attentive listening, with inquiry into the emotions and the basic needs that drive our communication. Nonviolent communication was founded by a fellow named Marshall Rosenberg, who found himself in a position to be mediating conflicts all over the world. And he developed this technique and kind of presented it as a formula. Now, that was probably in the 1960s. So over the years, folks have sometimes criticized nonviolent communication, saying it can be too formulaic. And when we practice it with a formulaic approach, sometimes it actually can be a tool of violence. Because if you insist on doing something one way, it's placing a demand on someone else, you're not really listening. Fortunately, when someone introduces an idea, the idea can evolve and grow. And Oren J. Sofer is one of those teachers that has taken some of those primary teachings on nonviolent communication and expanded it to include the influence of mindfulness meditation. So Oren J. Sofer proposes that active listening, nonviolent listening, has three aspects. First, we lead with presence. Next, we come from curiosity and care. Third, we focus on what matters. The story that we heard of the art teacher that Beth shared. Let's go back to that story and notice where the teacher leads with presence, comes from curiosity and care, and focuses on what matters. First, the teacher was able to lead with presence. Now, if you put yourself in that teacher's shoes, you would think that sometimes when we hear a story about someone vulnerable being hurt, it activates our sense of justice. Our inner superhero might want to step to the forefront. Forget presence, it's time for action. We have to protect the student, find the bullies, intervene with the parents. And what about that counselor? Where were they when the student was in despair? Well, there we go. We've left the conversation. We've left presence and we've gone into fix-it mode. Have you been there? I've been there. I was a teacher before I was a minister. So first, that art teacher stayed present. She asked that inner superhero to step aside. Next, she practiced curiosity and care. Did you notice what staying curious did for the agency of the student? The ability for that student to participate in making decisions to impact her own integrity and dignity in that moment? Giving space to be curious allowed the student to open up, share her feelings, go deep, really deep. And then the art teacher focused on what mattered, because what to do did matter. And in that example, she was an adult speaking to a child, and she did have some responsibility in that moment to offer leadership. So when the conversation took a turn to what to do, the student was part of solving the problem of the bullies, because fixing the problem did matter. But first, there was a need for care and compassion. When the superhero stepped aside, there was that loving presence. The solution wasn't as immediate, but it involved both parties. The young person went from wanting to quit school at the beginning of the conversation to agreeing to make a piece of art, to raise awareness, to receive help where maybe help wasn't available before. That art teacher followed those 3 principles that Oren J. Sofer offers us. Lead with presence, come from curiosity and care, and focus on what matters. Now, let's acknowledge there are 2 challenges to look out for here. First, it can be hard for us to stay present when listening to someone else's pain. When we hear something that can activate our own hurt, we might react by wanting to shut down or minimize the pain. It's hard to be curious when we're experiencing our own pain. Fortunately, we can use this 3-part approach to attend to our own pain. Maybe first we need to be present to our own emotion, be curious and caring about what is there. And what matters might be offering ourselves compassion. There, sweetheart, it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel angry and indignant about the student's situation. When we can attend with care to our own feelings, it makes it much more possible to be present with another person. And that might be the bulk of our work as we make an effort to become active and compassionate listeners. Begin within and attend to our own feelings. The other challenge of active listening, compassionate listening, is that coming from curiosity and care is not our default way of being in conversation. We're often getting ready for what to say next. Or some of us are attentive listeners when it comes to information, and we maybe got a lot of training in how to do that in school. Maybe we had teachers that taught us how to take notes or make an outline, or we learned how to summarize in our mind the main points of an argument. But that isn't the same as listening from compassion. And that's where we don't get as much guidance and teaching. So nonviolent communication, if you're someone that likes a little bit of a formula, offers us that skill that we can build. One way that I find it's very useful to learn about empathetic listening and what that looks and sounds like is to be aware of some of the things that are not empathetic listening. So I wanted to go over a few examples of those so we can kind of know what to look for. We can kind of do a little internal monitoring or awareness of our speech habits. So we can kind of see, are we listening with empathy or are we listening with something else in mind? So I'm going to offer those to you. I'm just going to offer you 3 of them. There are some others that come up. So these would be roadblocks to empathy. The first one is, you might have guessed it, judgment. When we listen, say we're in the situation of that art teacher and we're listening, if we get into a position of judging, or maybe judging's cousin, blaming, well, then our empathy has been deactivated. So blaming might sound like, well, it's probably your fault, or I wonder what they did to deserve that. The other roadblock to empathy that I want to mention is lecturing or teaching. And as a former teacher, I want to say it's a go-to to go to this, right? I have some life experience, and I want to tell you about it to help you. So that might look like, well, you should have spoken up. You need to get an advocate. You need to get someone in your corner. Similarly, we might try to compare. Now, in the situation of the teacher and the student, maybe that doesn't come up, but say a friend is talking to you about something challenging in their life, even something mundane, like, I was in line at the grocery store and it took 20 minutes to get through the checkout. Well, if you were going to compare your own experience, you would say, do you think that's so bad? I was in line for 30 minutes at the hardware store. And when we do that in that situation, we haven't lost much connection. But when we do it in a situation where somebody is opening up and saying, I'm really worried about my health because I just went to the doctor and they told me some news that was hard. When we enter into comparing then, that's when we can get a breakdown of that empathy. So why is it important to practice empathetic listening as Unitarian Universalists? Well, our new Unitarian Universalist covenant among the congregations, it places love at the center of all that we do. And we name as guiding values equity, interdependence, and transformation. In that story of the art student, we saw the transformation of that student's experience, from feeling shut down to feeling opened up, to seeing possibility. As Unitarian Universalists, the work of learning to be present, to practice care and curiosity, and to focus on what matters are not optional. They're really at the heart of what we affirm and promote as UUs. So I want to offer you 3 tools that Orange A. Sofer gives us to practice empathy. So if you are the remembering type, there's 2 sets of 3 to remember. So being present. So first of all, what does it mean to cultivate an empathetic presence? We are leading with presence, coming with curiosity and care, and we're focusing on what matters. If you want to practice empathetic listening, here are the 3 things to remember. Silent presence. If you only take 2 words away from this talk this morning, they would be this: say less. Do you want to say that with me? Say less. When you say less, you will listen more. Next, paraphrasing, repeating back just what you heard. Now, this might seem a little redundant for those of us who like to move forward and get to the point. Repeating back what someone says seems like, a waste of airspace maybe. But when you do this, it helps slow down the pitch and the tone of the conversation. Just try it. Maybe the next time you get into a conversation that's a little more serious than waiting in line at the grocery store. And then finally, empathetic reflection. And this is where learning a little bit more about NVC, nonviolent communication, could help you go deeper. But an empathetic reflection is when you take a guess about how someone might be feeling. So take that example of the grocery store, right? Rather than comparing and saying, you were in line for 20 minutes? Well, that was nothing. 30 minutes for me at that hardware store. Can you believe it? What if you said, gosh, that must have been really irritating. I wonder if you really were seeking some efficiency, or you had other things that were important to you and you didn't get to do them. There's something for me in my bones that feels it when someone is able to take a guess about how I'm feeling and what I'm needing versus someone focusing on their own experience in comparison to mine. So start simple. If you want to start with a conversation about something pretty surface level, you can start there. Because this is really a practice. Like meditation, nonviolent communication is a daily practice. So, I'm going to wrap things up, but I need to check on something first. If there's just two things you're going to take away from today's talk, what are they? Yes. So we can practice listening by saying less. We can be present by building up our spiritual practices for presence. Today we tried two approaches. First, we practiced an anchoring meditation, grounding in the body by visualizing an anchor point in the body to keep our awareness steady. You can practice this at home on your own. If you like a little guidance or mentoring, you can do a little Google search, find a YouTube recording to practice along with. You might want to download an app like the Insight Timer to find some guided meditations. Today we also delved into teachings about nonviolent communication. The author I spoke of, Oren J. Sofer, he teaches online. There's also a great website called the NVC Academy. There's opportunities to practice online, and also in the Boston area, you'll find folks that are practicing in person, if that's your speed. So we can cultivate empathetic listening. But before we do that, let's remember that we can return to presence, come from curiosity and care, and focus on what matters. Our Unitarian Universalist values will guide us to that. So we come to church to be reminded of our values. And we sing as a group. So I invite you to close our worship with a song of love. It's number 299 in your gray hymn book, Make Channels for the Streams of Love. You may rise in body or spirit. us say together our unison benediction, our closing words. They're printed in your order of service, if you'd like to say them with me. I inhale your story, I exhale compassion. I inhale your words, and I exhale understanding. I inhale your suffering, I exhale gentleness. Empathy is the deliberate act of breathing for someone else who can't find their own air. And now we'll say together our unison benediction. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. Please be seated to enjoy the postlude as we extinguish the flame of the chalice.